Happy early Mother's Day, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And this year, we wanted to celebrate Mother's Day by celebrating our favorite mother, portrayed by the incomparable Vera Farmiga. From one of our favorite series, Bates Motel, which we've recapped in depth on Talking Mrs. Bates. But this year, we thought we'd do something extra special and pay tribute to the show as a whole.
By giving it the award recognition it so unfairly did not receive. That's right, Emmys, I'm talking to you with our own award. So, ladies and gentlemen of White Pine Bay, we present to you the Normies!
All right, that's right, Dragon. That's right. How you doing tonight? How you doing tonight on this great Friday night? You know, the Friday before Mother's Day. We're cracking this out before Mother's Day just to get it in there in a timely fashion. Everyone's thinking about their moms and, you know, like kind of like regaling in the stories and just reminiscing and whatnot. And Dragon, we're reminiscing about our favorite fictional mother. We're reminiscing about Norma Bates herself, of course, specifically from Bates Motel. My God, Dragon, Bates Motel just gave us a love affair with Vera Farmiga, the likes of which you and I have never seen. You know, we're just basically anytime Vera Farmiga pops up in a movie, unless it's Captive State, we instantly run out and see it. Sorry, Captive State. But, Dragon, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go over, we have 10 categories, right? 10 categories for the 10 episodes per season.
Yes.
All right. So do you want me to just run down all the categories right now, Dragon? Do you want to just run them down just to tease them up?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so, folks, the 10 categories in this award show are very particular to Bates Motel and also particular to our podcast, Talking Mrs. Bates. So, of course, we're going to be doing some running gags here and there. There's actually going to be a running gag category. So, here's what we're looking at here. So, we have best mother-son bonding moment. We have best episode of the series. We have best villain. We have the Golden Farmiga, a.k.a. the most adorable Norma moment. We have best nice girl.
Or another phrasing of it would be nicest girl category, but yeah.
Nicest girl. I think you're the nicest girl. We have best podcast running gag. We have biggest young Bruce Wayne moment. You want to explain that one, Dragon?
Okay, well, podcast running gag is kind of for our vanity, and the biggest young Bruce Wayne was more for my vanity. That's basically, there was a running gag that you won't find nominated because we just dedicated a whole category to it here. Where basically Max Terriot, the actor who portrays Dylan Massett, you know, Norm Bates' brother in the show Bates Motel. Which, by the way, folks, there are probably gonna be spoilers within this. So I hope that you've seen the series. Especially, you got to be a diehard if you're watching this. I hope.
Yeah, basically, if you're watching this, like we know we're recording this because we know it's going to be a niche audience for sure. Because it's going to be only people who, A, are fans of Bates Motel, and B, hopefully have at least some experience in our recap podcast talking about Bates Motel. So we know we're reaching for the fences here with this one, Dragon. But you know what? This is one of those podcasts where, like you said, this is kind of a vanity project for us. And I feel like you and I, regardless of like the numbers or the I can kind of take the Captain Algorithm hat off for a second and just have fun with this one. You know what I mean? I'm really excited about this one from just a sheer level of how fun I think it's going to be to record this.
The point is, before there was even a Gotham, folks, there was, Max Terriot again. I don't know why. It's kind of like a young Bruce Wayne, knowing that, I guess, I don't forget at what point, I guess, 2013, which is when Bates Motel started, I think it was probably announced that Gotham was happening. Just kind of thinking, like a young, the young world-traveling Bruce Wayne that we didn't quite see in Gotham, that we kind of alluded to by the end of things. I kind of figured, Max Terriot, he had a lot of great kind of Bruce Wayne-esque, he carried himself like a young Bruce Wayne traveling the world, so to speak. Always had kind of like It's kind of hard to explain. It's just pretty much, I don't know why. I just had like kind of like a young Bruce Wayne before the Cal, but kind of like on the cusp of that year one era of Bruce Wayne. I don't know why. Kid just had a way about him. Like, and oddly enough, he was actually in the running to be in I believe it's called Justice League Mortal. The Justice League, the George Miller Justice League. He was actually in the running to be in that movie. I doubt for Batman, but I think it was for the Flash. But again, they never clarified which role. But I mean, yeah, I was going to go to Army Hammer, but he was in the consideration process. I'm just saying, Max Terriot. There's a very thin connective tissue there. Point being, there's Dylan has moments that are just kind of a Bruce Wayne magnitude. Man did some really brave and really cool, very heroic stuff there. So it feels kind of aching to like Bruce Wayne kind of fits in, kind of like, yeah, I could buy this kid. I don't know.
All right, so moving on, we have Quirkiest Chick Hogan moment. We have best use of a song. We have best blackout, of course, very big one right there.
Yep.
Is that it, Dragon?
Yes, that's it. So 10 categories for the fact that Bates Motel every season consisted of 10 episodes. So we're going to cap it off at 10. Believe me, folks, we could have done a lot more. And T, just kind of walk them through how it's going to work.
Okay, so essentially, folks, what we're going to do is Dragon and I both have a first pick and a second pick already in mind. There's 5 nominees in each of these categories, which, of course, we'll run down at the start of things for each of the categories. And essentially, like, basically, if Dragon and I have the same top pick, or we have, like, a pick between us that we can pretty much unanimously agree on, then then that'll be an easy one. And I have a feeling there's going to be some of them. I don't want to name which ones for suspense, but there's definitely going to be a couple episodes or a couple categories in here that are going to be pretty easy to determine. But I suspect for at least over half of these, Dragon, we're going to have differences of opinion. And we don't want to use the first choice, second choice thing specifically as like a scoring system per se. But the first choice and second choice that you and I both present are all of the things on the board. So, for example, like if you and I throw out, like if you and I both have different second choices, but we have the same first choice, then we'll, or I don't know. I'm overcomplicating things, Dragon. But do you have an easier way to explain it? Basically, it's going to be like if we, I'm sorry. Basically, I just keep getting thrown off by this first choice, second choice thing. I keep making it more complicated than it needs to be.
All right, look, let me walk them through how I interpret, and you can tell me if I'm wrong at all.
Okay.
Okay. So basically, folks, it's going to happen. We're going to get to the category. We're gonna list the nominees, and basically kind of like essentially kind of a mini recap of what the moment is as we go through them, and then we're going to kind of share what our top 2 contenders are for each of us, and then we're going to see again who basically if assuming our first choices line up, then there's kind of no contest, but yes, we'll see what happens there. The point is we're going to list off our 2 and then kind of fight and basically kind of like kind of try to figure it out between us, like what really deserves the normie, and again assuming we're really deadlocked, then we'll go to the randomizer.
Yes.
Now put the top 2 or so contenders in there. We'll hit the random button, and then basically we'll have, again, like the Oscars or like the Emmys. Sometimes just lift up the chance, folks. I don't know how else to phrase it. Sometimes it's left up to blind dude out of luck, to quote Tom. I don't know what to tell you. So that's pretty much how it works. Like, does that sound right?
Yeah, you got it right on the money, man.
Okay, and it's kind of the first. Again, it's kind of the first stab we're taking at the normies. Again, we could always pull it back. Maybe not next year, but again, at some point we could always do like the norms. I'm not just going to say annual or anything, but we're testing it out, folks. We're testing the waters, as it were. So breakneck pace, and just like trial and error. We'll see what happens. Fingers crossed. It could be the 89th Oscars, or it could be a better one.
Oh God.
Apologies to Alan Carr. Anyway. So,
okay, let's get into our first category. Dragon, you ready to go?
Am I ready?
All right. So, best mother-son bonding moment, and the nominees are, all right, the boat scene from the pilot episode where they're talking about the cord.
Yes.
And Dragon, feel free to add more context to any of these as I list them down.
Well, of course, in the Cord specifically, so this is from the very first episode, which of course they kind of awesomely reference way back in up to season 5. I believe the first episode of that one too, but it's been a while. The point being, might have been episode. Yeah, it was at the end of episode 1. They referenced the both thing in episode 5. I'm sorry. Let me reverse that. Keith Summers, the man who violated Norma, and of course was kind of killed. And really, it wasn't necessarily self-defense, but that guy had it coming. Keith Summers, he was a monster. Keith Summers gets killed, and of course, it's like the disposal of the body. It's mother and son disposing the body, kind of a bonding experience of them. And they're bonding over tragedy, and they have like a really nice, heartwarming moment about. I believe it's Jane Eyre he's quoting. I believe I could be wrong. And it's kind of quoting it, Norman, that's Jane Eyre. It's like they're having like this sweet little moment here, like quoting literature as they're just kind of like below the moonlight, like disposing of a body. Again, it's a mother-son moment. Of course, this kind of kicks off everything that happens within the series. It all starts with the mother and son dumping a body in the water, which of course is going to be what the crux of Psycho is from this point forward in the lores of history. So that's the core.
Okay, so then we have a Dylan and Norma moment, which is famously Dylan reacting to Norma. Norma and Norman are about to skip town. They have I forget if they're going on a bus or a train or whatever.
Yeah, it's I think it's train.
Yeah,
but I'm not 100%. It might be bus. I could be misremembering. I think it was train. I'm pretty sure it was train.
Okay, well, point being, this is a moment where throughout Dylan's whole life, Norma has put Norman over him. And in this moment, Dylan sees that Norma cares just as much about him in the famous moment, you bought me a ticket.
Yep.
Right. And then, of course, we have a very playful one. We have bonding in the most fun and silly of ways. We have, move over, you silly woman.
So this is at the start of season 3, and again, I believe episode 1 of season 3. It's called "Death in the Family." It's the whole crux is again like it's kind of per Dylan's suggestion. Norm is trying to kind of kick Norman out of the nest, so to speak, because he's about, I believe he's 18 in the series, at least verging on 18. And it's the whole like you shouldn't be sleeping in the same bed as you, and of course it's the idea. Season 3 plays with kind of the underlying kind of tension between Norma and Norman. Ooh. And essentially, it builds to Norma's mother dies. She's very bummed out about this, and of course, she's kind of stressed out by Norman in the episode. And of course, they kind of have like kind of a flare up, and then basically this is kind of the calm after the storm, where she's very bummed out about things, and again, like per Dylan's suggestion, sometimes he may know things better than I do when it comes to you in kind of a sense of a man, in a manly sense, where you shouldn't be doing these things, but she just kind of casts it all to the side, and it's just. And he just says just for tonight because I'm so sad. And then, of course, Norman just says, "I'll move over, you silly woman." So again, it's like them just kind of they're bonding despite their best selves. Like it's showing the inseparable bond. This again, the thing that's of course going to lead to ultimately their fate, which of course relies of them in bed. So the bed is assembled within the series, but "Move over, your silly woman" is a delightful moment indicative of that, though.
Well said. Well said. All right. So the next nominee or Normandy is "Tonight You Belong to Me." Dragon, why don't you take this one as well?
So I love just parenthetically, I'm not going to fully tip my head or anything. I just want to say "Tonight You Belong to Me" is an excellent ending to because folks, I'm going to tell you this right now. We picked the best of the best for all these categories, for all the categories, for all the Normandies. So we have the best of the best Normandies. We even punched them up to make them even better than they were in the first draft initially. So believe me, folks, this is going to be really this could be a lot tighter in some spots. Like we're picking from the best, sifting through a basket of diamonds of moments from Bates Motel, if you will. "Tonight You Belong to Me" is the ending of an episode in season 3 where basically Caleb has been let back into the family, and of course, despite Norman's best interest, knowing what Caleb did to Norma, and essentially, they were just playing on the piano "Tonight You Belong to Me," and the end of the episode is Norman, very hurt by this, in a blackout state. He goes to a sleeping Norma in bed, and again, like in his blacked out state of mind, he's drawn to her, and again, this is the season again dealing with kind of the attraction between the two of them again, and basically what this moment gets to is the fact that these two again, in no proper world will these two ever get together. They're as close as someone can be without violating a law of nature. That's the idea, and that this moment is kind of indicative. Again, even in Norman's unconscious state, he needs to be. Again, these two characters are linked together. The cord, if you will, these two characters are in infinitely linked together in a way, even if they again, because again, in some ways they're the same person. Again, Norman in that unconscious state, as Norman himself, one could say, is drawn to the woman himself as well as an underlying ways elsewhere. So again, it's like he's drawn to her in an unconscious state, played lovely to "Tonight You Belong to Me." It's nice. So.
All right, and then lastly, we have season 4's great cliffhanger, which I like to call the Norman Rockwell moment, where Norman, after losing Norma, after kind of like sacrificing her in a weird ritualistic Mr. Sandman sequence the episode before, and Norman's kind of finally coming to terms with, oh my God, this woman that I love is dead, and I killed her, and there's nothing I can do about it. Then what happens, Dragon?
Well, as Norman is frantically realizing, oh my God, I killed my mother. I have to be with her, and I basically have to punish myself, and/or I have to be with her instantly. He goes to shoot himself. Before he does that, he hears piano music playing. Of course, it's around the holidays. He goes downstairs, and Norma is there again in his mind. But again, this is kind of Norman embracing the delusion, so he can still have his mother in his world. So he's basically his psychology, his psyche is kind of developing a safety net for him. It's developing this dream reality. He's like kind of going to this dream paradise where his mother is still alive, and she's, oh, I'd never leave you, honey. I thought you left. I'd never leave you. And they play piano, Christmas music, and we see this beautiful Norman Rockwell kind of Christmas exterior of Bates Motel. And that's essentially that's the moment. There's them bonding again, despite literally everything being at their utmost worst. They're together in the closest again within Norman's mind. So it doesn't get more personal than that.
Oh yes, it does.
Well, sure.
All right, so Dragon, how do you want to do this? Do you want to reveal first choice and then second choice?
Well, should we? What do you think? Should we build to it?
Well, let's either reveal first choice or okay. You know what? Just for time's sake, let's just do both at once. Just you do first choice and second choice, and I'll do it. And I'll do first choice, second choice. Okay, you go first.
Okay. So my first choice for this is again, folks. I love all these moments. My first choice has got to be, I'd never leave you, honey, because it's kind of a Swiss watch moment, if you will. Again, it's something perfect that kind of epitomizes what their bond is, and again, it's Norman kind of dipping into kind of that perfect state. And my second choice would be Tonight You Belong to Me. Again, pretty much for the reasons I kind of stated and kind of fleshing it out there. But those are my two.
Okay. Well, Dragon, that's interesting because, I had my first choice was the Dylan and Norma scene, mostly just because it's unique, because it's the only Norma and Dylan, it's the only Dylan scene on this list, and I feel like it sticks out in that way. Max Terriot definitely, you really feel something for him in that moment. It's a very cathartic moment for him. It feels like a very earned moment of bonding between them. And then my second choice was Dragon. You know what? I was gonna go with my second choice being the cord moment on the boat, but I'm gonna go ahead and send my second choice to be the I'd never leave you ending, because I like that ending, and it is a strong contender. I would be okay if it won. But I don't know, Dragon. The only argument I have against the "I never leave you" moment is that it's not technically Norman bonding with Norma.
Well, I mean, Norma is in the room.
I mean, she is. And it is. That's Here's the thing, Dragon. I want it with these bonding moments. It's like I want to get it like. I want the most genuine emotion we could possibly muster for these kind of things. Like, honestly, that might take the cake for like best season cliffhanger, like best ending to an episode. Like there's a number of categories that we could draw from where I feel like that would be a runaway favorite. But I don't know, man. Like there's just something about the way that the Dylan and Norma scene plays out for me, where my heart is definitely with that.
Well, I mean, it is. Look, the ticket scene is a good. It is a good payoff to that season about again Dylan kind of being kind of the second tier focus of the season compared again with the whole Caleb revelation and everything. Of course, just being kind of considering himself not kind of being a walking consequence of Norma's past, and of course that being kind of the reconciliation of Dylan matters. And I'm just trying to weigh it here because you have that, and yes, all that does still stand. But again, it's like literally, it's things at their worst. It's Norman, it's Norman creating like a whole idyllic reality in his own mind because of the loss of his mother. That again,
okay, but that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's why, to me, it kind of bothers me because like when I think of mother and son bonding, it's like that sort of bonding is not healthy. It's it's why the whole move over you silly woman thing. I think we can agree that's probably part of the reason why we both love that moment, but it's not necessarily healthy mother son bonding.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but again, there are various unconventional bonds a mother and son can have as well. Again, there's obviously dysfunction and so on and so forth. And looking at that in that regard, I don't know. I'll admit this. I mean, Tonight You Belong to Me, as much as I love it, I would discount it because the only thing I'd only knock against that I could see would be, it's a great moment, but she's not quite conscious during it, so maybe it's not specifically.
Yeah, that's the strike I had against it as well. All right, so at the very least, we've boiled it down to the Dylan and Norma scene, and then the "I'd Never Leave You" scene.
Yes.
I don't know, man. Like, I'm pretty staunch on the whole. Like, again, Dylan is kind of the big outlier of this award, so I think it'd be cool if Dylan won this, in spite of there being so many cool, so many good Norma and Norman moments. I think Dylan winning this would be kind of like a cool out of left field victory for him. Like I'm willing to go to the randomizer on this one.
All right, let's go to the randomizer. Let's see what happens because I think they're kind of evenly matched in that regard. Let's see. So
okay.
Of course, also let's just because again we're just going to find out instantly who won. So let me tease it up a little bit here.
Yes.
So okay, folks. So basically, imagine. Hopefully, this will go a lot smoother in the next ones. But again, so let's find out. And the Normie goes to, and just stretching it with 2. Sorry, and hold the 2, would you? And the Normie goes to.
I can't hold it that long, Dragon. Just type out what you need to type out.
All right. Okay. Let me just okay. This just try and get right. Okay. Take it. Season 4. Okay. And Normie goes to.
All right.
Looks like you got it.
Woo!
All right. Okay. So again, the Normie goes to Dylan. Dylan's moment. So again, you bought me a ticket. The Dylan and Norma, the outlier won, folks. Again, it's a grand sweep, folks. No idea what's going to happen next. I mean, oh boy, it's like Dylan won, the outlier. He wasn't even originally on the ballot, folks, but he got on and he owned it, man. Dylan earned his spot. Good for that massive boy. Good for him.
Okay, let's get into best episode, Dragon. Norman. This is, of course, the season 4 finale. It of course contains the "I'd Never Leave You" moment. It's essentially Norman in a tailspin after the death of Norma, after he killed Norma in that Mr. Sandman bit. At the end of the penultimate episode of season 4, of course, it has some great Chick Hogan stuff at the end of it. It's kind of basically, this episode is great because it just kind of really sets the stage for the final act of the show.
It does, and of course, the big advantage that Norman has in its favor is that this is the big moment everyone's expecting since the beginning. This is the big, he digs up his mother. It's a big moment. And of course, with Norma's dead, and not only dead, like we've done the unspeakable. But again, it's like the unspeakable we always knew was coming, and she's been unearthed. And again, Norman having that realization, which plays into the Norman Rockwell ending. So it's a lot of big stuff in the episode's favor. And also, there's kind of a hilarious kind of comedy of errors at that funeral, where you like, oh, well, not comedy. I shouldn't say. I'm saying it's like it's again, it's a really we have this Norman's trying to have this lovely quiet funeral, and again, she's just giving this soliloquy about Norma as we all would, and then Romero kind of comes in, and of course, like it's a fight at a funeral. It's so points. It's kind of a disaster of a funeral, but I mean that's how it's intense. It points this thing has a lot going in his favor. And there's a little bit of a mystery again, like when is Norman going to find out? I've always laid out the American Dad example where it's it's like the tearjerker in the James Bond parody of American Dad. He said, in the next sad movie I'm going to make, because this whole thing's about making people cry, unrelenting, making super depressing movies to make people cry to death. Is next movie I'm going to make is a baby ape trying to bring back its dead gorilla mother for 4 hours.
Oh God!
And again, essentially that's kind of what we have here. Is like it's so sad yet powerful. It's like, oh my God, the boy doesn't know it yet. He just doesn't know. He's gluing her eyes open. What is happening? No. All right.
Next one.
Next one is Unfaithful, which I found this out recently, and I really wish I'm kicking myself for. I don't think we brought this up when we were going through it initially. Is that Unfaithful is a Steven Zurich episode. Our Daredevil guy did an episode of Bates Motel, and that's the one.
Nice.
Unfaithful, of course. This is a fun one, folks. Again, we picked all the nothing but the best here for these episodes. Unfaithful is the episode in which Norman is basically taken out of Pineview, I believe. He's taken out of Pineview. He's kind of being reintegrated into the new status quo that is Norma and Romero being married, and he's very unhappy about that. He assumed it was a marriage of convenience, and yes, it was. But by the same token, it was a marriage of convenience, and that had true feelings behind it. This, of course, this begins the Christmas setting. This episode up until the very end, it's kind of a 3 Christmas episode deal. And this of course has the Christmas tree lot scene, where one of my favorite things ever in Bates Motel is in this episode, where you have Norman, Norman and Norma are at each other's throats, and basically get into an argument where Norman's confronts with the fact, like, you don't even love him. You don't have to pretend anymore. He says, no, I do like him. I like him, Norman. He's a good man. You like him? And he just throws up because he literally can't stomach. He just hates the idea that his mother has found someone genuinely a good character, someone that he likes. And he hates this so much it makes him sick. And then she tries to rationalize it, like, oh, you're not acclimated to your new medicine. You're like, lady, that may be that, but it like 25% of that is that's the reason, but 75% of that is he hates that guy so much, and the fact that he's been replaced in some way. Oh God, that's Unfaithful. So, and of course ends with him blowing up Romero, like taking an axe to the house. It's a tense episode. So that's Unfaithful.
All right, so Marion, this is the one with the big shower scene, right?
Yes. This episode is the Psycho adaptation. That's what Marion is.
Yeah. So this is a big one because this is the one where we were really looking forward to it throughout the whole time, and I think it delivered. I think Marion is like one of the most subversive episodes of the series, like with the Sam Loomis shower scene in particular, that role reversal of the shower scene just being a stroke of genius on the show's part. Like one of the big changes to the Psycho mythology that just really landed in a big bad way.
Yep. All right. So then we have Inseparable. This is basically the episode that directly follows Marion. So this is episode 7 of season 5. Inseparable is the aftermath where basically now.
Wait, I have the body on my list.
I sent you the updated list.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
So, yeah, so that's the thing. So that's a different one. The point is, like, Inseparable is the episode that follows Marion. Inseparable is the aftermath in which Norman and Norma, the mother, more accurately, Norman and mother are now partners in crime. And basically, she's like kind of the naughty partner in crime, if you will. She's just like, she's like encouraging this really bad behavior, like going on walks, from the crime scene. They get like, and you can see she has a desire to take over, and basically we see throughout the episodes like her trying to kind of get more and more real estate that is Norman's body, and of course it builds to a big climax where she's kind of like basically she wants Dylan to go, and she suggests having a nice dinner to say goodbye to him, but of course Dylan is making a stand for Norman's soul, to save Norman's soul from Mother. And then Mother attacks Dylan. It's a big moment with the two of them. Like, Norman almost kills his brother, and then Norman snaps out of it. He kind of stops. Literally, this awesome moment where we have this great, this well edited sequence when they're on the table and we cutting back and forth between Norman and Mother fighting each other. And Dylan's just like, after he's been clocked on the head by a glass, like, oh my, what am I seeing? And Norman calls the police on himself. It's a big cliffhanger ending. Like, Norman he would to save his brother. He calls the police and says, I killed Sam Loomis, or I killed somebody, and that's the ending. So Inseparable is kind of it's a build to a big climax, but again, it's kind of a lot of fun, hilarious stuff at the start of Inseparable too. That's a lot of partners in crime comedy. So that's Inseparable.
All right, and then finally, of course, we have The Cord, which is the series finale, I should say. I mean, what more needs to be said about this one? It just wraps up everything in a very satisfying way. We get some tragic stuff between Dylan and Norman. We get a really satisfying resolution to everyone's arc. We get like the big ultimate death of Mother with Norman passing on as well, with those two getting to kind of like live on happily ever after in the afterlife. We get Dylan saving the people who are staying at the hotel, which is a big young Bruce Wayne moment that we're going to get to in another category. Just all around a very, very satisfying end to a series that we just came to love.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, do you want me to go first on this one?
Yeah, you go first.
Okay, I'm going to have my first choice is going to be Marion. And then my second choice is going to be Norman.
Interesting, because for me, I thought this was going to be a deadlock between. I thought it was going to be a battle of finales. See, for me, my first choice. Here's the thing. Honestly, I'm kind of still flip flopping my first choices here because I think there's like we have it's Norman and The Cord, and in terms of the order of that, I mean, again, they're really deadlocked for me. It's really hard to choose because I think here's the thing. I think Norman is the episode. I think. Sorry, it's really hard to phrase the words here. They're doing two really different things here. The Cord is kind of in connection to previous events, but the same could be said for Norman. They're both. Again, they both basically these are the two episodes that made me most emotional.
I would compare it where like Norman is Infinity War and The Cord is Endgame, where Norman is just like a great setup to go into the final battle, and like, the stakes couldn't be higher, and we're just getting all these mind-blowing moments, and then The Cord is like just kind of paying off everything, a lot of fan service. But by that same token, Dragon, the thing with The Cord for me is that I feel like as good as it is, by that point in the series, like the thing that really kind of turns me on to something like Marion is the fact that it is unequivocally just Bates Motel madness. Like we get everything in that episode. We get a little bit of Mother. We get a lot of Norman being crazy. We get a lot of subverting the psycho tropes, which is something the show was known for. I don't know, with The Cord, it's just The Cord was a very satisfying wrap up, but I feel like that felt more like just a wrap up to the show rather than like a celebration of Psycho. Do you know what I mean? Am I making any sense?
No. I see your point there. Again, the thing with Marion, I have to take points off for is that again, Rihanna is. Here's the thing. She's again. The biggest fear going into season 5 was Rihanna as Marion Crane, a very iconic character to say the least. And again, for the most part, again, she was fine. She didn't tank the season at all or anything. She was fine. And in the Marion episode, though, I gotta be honest, she did have that bit where like we have moments where we're taking the dialogue, and again, I think we're for the most part everything else works in the episodes. Like when we're adapting or we're subverting moments from Psycho, we do have moments where it's like some people say eat like a bird. It's like this is so uninterested. Like we watched the bird line. Like we're doing that's the thing. I feel like some of those. I think in comparison, I think we kind of live and die by Rihanna for moments like that here and there. But that's the thing. I'm not saying like again. I'm not saying like that's a huge. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean you do raise a good point there. Man, that is a good point because I do remember in the podcast we were kind of ribbing pretty hard on Rihanna's parts in the episode. Like this episode has a killer ending to be sure, but maybe I'm just putting nostalgia goggles on in terms of like, like the big payoff of like the whole series. We're wondering how they're going to do the shower scene, and then they really stick to landing on the shower scene. But you're right, Dragon. The rest of the episode, well, not bad, is not necessarily top tier. So
yeah, I mean,
okay,
again.
So I'm gonna go ahead and knock out Marion here. We'll make it between the season 4 finale and the series finale, which I think is a pretty appropriate battle, a pretty appropriate matchup. I mean, I'm not totally unwilling to just let it slide and give it to the series finale without going to the randomizer. But I stress that Norman had so much big stuff. Like Norman was a big game changer. Like again, the one thing that I think the Cord has going for it is closure. Like we're wrapping everything up. We're getting all these plot points resolved. But what I think Norman really strives to do is Norman was really the transitional point. It was the big kind of like we're just seeing it happen before our eyes. Like you said, it's like he's digging up the body and he's taping the eyes shut or the eyes open, I should say. And it's just like that transition and knowing that season 5 was going to be all about this kind of stuff, not to mention the Norman Rockwell scene, which, again, a big contender for, one of the best scenes of the whole series. Yeah, I don't know. I think Norman has a more memorable place in the show's overall history because of the way that it transitioned us into the end game of the series, no pun intended. And the Cord really was just kind of like, yeah, it was a satisfying series finale, but that's really kind of all it was a satisfying series finale.
Here's the thing. I pretty much agree with you almost verbatim on that, because here's the thing. All right, and this is why it's so frustrating for me. Again, why it's so like it's like picking your children. This one, it's that is that both of these got me the most emotional I've ever been in the series watching these 2 episodes, and they both, again, for different reasons, but they both have like high league and like like when we see Dylan's daughter, it's like I'm losing it, like I'm like when Norman's running into his mother's arms and we see little, again, the thing makes me weep like a woman. It's just is just like is this bit where we see Dylan has a daughter, and of course his daughter has like this long blonde hair. It's like the next generation of Norma Bates. It's like something that just makes me all soft and like, oh my god, it's so beautiful. So we have moments like that, again, played against one of my favorite songs, by the way. So we have like that going on there, and so the Cord has a lot. Like it's wringing it's wringing all the tears out of me, so to speak. I mean, it got me like legitimate, like, oh god, like I was weeping while I was watching the thing. But Norman, on the other,
I would wager to say that some of that stuff, while nice and while a good payoff, isn't like definitively the first thing I think of when I think of Bates Motel. When I think of Bates Motel, I think of the twisted, messed up relationship that Norma and Norman shared, the Cord, if you will, that was the heart of the series. And really, I think that Norman is the episode that really goes above and beyond to show like just how deep that bond runs even after death.
No, I know, and that's what I agree with you on that. And that's the thing with Norman is that, again, Norman that's the moment in the series where it's like, it's like when I remember when it was happening, I still, this is the thing I think gives it the edge. I think I'm kind of leaning towards Norman here, is the fact that even when watching Norman, it's like when we saw it happen, it's like, oh man, I don't know if I'm ready for this. Like as it was happening, we knew it was going to happen one of these days. I know it's season 4, but it's like I'm still not prepared for it. Like when he's digging up the body, because we fell in love with her so much, it's like, oh god, it's a desecration of Norma, but the boy doesn't know. He just doesn't know. And yes, and of course the big advantage, and basically this is the big kind of point of contention here. And I think I might have to give it to Norman just based on the fact that the core, while great, basically I'm going to echo your point there. Is that again, it's Norman has the cell of the show where the chord is the resolution. It's the ending to it all. Where Norman, again, the best thing I can say about Norman is that it doesn't need a 5th season. It's that good. So again, it fills in all the blanks. You couldn't just have
yeah.
That's the thing I can always like say off the top about Norman versus the chord. The chord is like, yes, that's great, but again, Norman is like it's the cell of Psycho, and again, that's the end of that series, of that prequel series. The chord in season 5 as a whole is the adaptation that kind of takes it to a new place. It's basically fulfilling the promise versus taking it to a new place. That's what the battle is. They're going to new places in different ways. So that's the frustrating thing, is that Norman's being so good, it kind of renders the rest of it like not necessary, just the cherry on top. So it kind of makes season 5 better by proxy. So I kind of make that. So you see why I'm back and forth on this. Like I'm leaning towards Norman though. So I think we should just probably do that then, right?
I think we should call it, yeah.
Again, it's really even, folks. So okay, so it's really even though. Okay, so and the Normie goes to Norman. Norm in.
All right.
Okay. All right. So moving on.
Category. This should be a fun one. Best villain. We have Jake Abernathy, of course, the bad guy from the second half of season 1 after Zach Shelby was disposed of. Dragon, you want to tell us a little bit about this guy? It's been so long, I barely even remember him, honestly.
Yeah, sure. And also, just a quick honorary mention: he's not in the running because again, we only had like one episode. But Keith Silvers, he was a really rotten guy, though. But that's the thing; he was rotten. He deserved to die, but he didn't have quite enough screen time to really necessitate him as a villain. So,
I mean, honestly, like for me, if I were doing this list, I would give the slight edge to Zach Shelby because Zach Shelby was the first reoccurring villain of the show, and also I feel like Zach Shelby was sort of like a proto Romero in terms of being like the father figure that Norman hated. So honestly, Dragon, I slightly prefer Zach Shelby over Jake Abernathy, but.
So I don't know if it's kind of a snub, I'll admit, but by the same token, though, Abernathy, he's kind of a foreshadow of what Norman could become, because again, he's digging up bodies too. Shelby's body, more accurately, he's putting in the motel. He's got a business operating out of the motel. He's kind of representative of, again, he's also representative of kind of the shady business going on in the town. So basically, Abernathy is kind of the representation of all the season 1 stuff, of basically all the stuff. Again, the show gradually, as much as we love Bates Motel, it did go through an evolution where basically seasons 3 onwards where it kind of found itself as kind of the show. Again, that's really the Norma arc, and nothing is the first 2 seasons, but again, it's more of like we move to this strange town that's kind of doing stuff that's also kind of foreshadowing the Norman story, tying into those events. But the point is, like, Abernathy is kind of indicative of what the show was in those first 2 seasons, so like the shady business, and again, it feeds a little bit into season 3. But the point being, it's mostly that's kind of Abernathy's claim to fame. Or he was the guy who he sold the girls into sex slavery. So he was the guy he kidnapped the girls, and Shelby, like, he sold the girls.
All right, and then of course we have the incomparable Nick Ford,
yes,
guy who's the master of the pleasantry.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So Nick Ford again, the kind of the basically one of the drug business owners, one of the leaders of the feuding families of the drug business. Because we have Nick Ford and we have Gil. I believe it's Gil Turner. So Gil Turner, who was Dylan's boss. Essentially, he ran the one side of things, and of course, when Gil got killed, that kind of brings forth one of our next guys here. So that's so Nick Ford. Nick Ford on the flip side, though, he after the murder of his daughter, Blair Watson, he basically kind of was courting war and trying to find out, who was behind things. And Nick Ford just kind of got, again, through the Bates family and their actions, he kind of got tied into, again, basically kind of a graduated version of the drug stuff we were doing in season 1. So Nick Ford was kind of more of the sophistication and subtleties. That's kind of what we got from Ford.
All right, then we have Zane Morgan, who's kind of like the opposite of subtle. Like, this guy was probably the most, the biggest kind of like loose cannon, like muscle villain of the show, if you will.
Oh yeah, Zane Morgan is kind of like the Tuco of Bates Motel. That's kind of what we got with Zane Morgan, just kind of a guy firing from the hip, not really thinking that much. Just he's just like, I'm the intimidating guy in the drug trade. I shoot guys and put them in my trunk and all that stuff. Pretty much. When I got a wacky hairstyle, Zane. A little more sophisticated, but he is really brutal as well. But I want you to send the message. Just shoots the guy. Like, really? Is that the message you wanted? Like, why'd you have to boil around a guy like that? Shoot him. Come on. Like Zane's just kind of like kind of Tuco without the charm. That's kind of what Zane Morgan is.
Then we have Bob Paris, who's kind of like like the next step in the Nick Ford archetype, where this guy like really has it together. Like with Nick Ford, you could tell there was something not quite right upstairs. But with Bob Paris, I feel like the thing that makes him intimidating is the fact that he was such a pillar of the community in some regards.
Yes. Bob Paris, in some ways, is kind of a fusion of. There's definitely some Nick Ford in him, in that Bob Paris definitely believes in pleasantries. With T, he's all about the pleasantries. That Bob Paris, and by the same token, though, he is. He's. Again, there's a lot of Nick Ford. It's kind of Nick Ford meets Romero to an extent, I guess. That's kind of where you land on with Bob Paris. It's like, again, like Bob Paris can be really brutal, and Bob Paris was essentially the closest thing we got to like a legitimate mob in White Pine Bay. That was Bob Paris mostly to a T there. Where it wasn't like just he didn't really deal. Like, he was more of the guy at the top. He was like financing the money and like how the money flowed through the town.
Right.
That was kind of his role in things. Like, he wasn't running the drug business, but he was running more of the sex trade, which of course tied into the drug business and vice versa. Again, the town was forged on sex and drugs, and he was more kind of financing the sex side of things, which kind of like when the drugs kind of taken out of the equation after season 2, Bob Paris really rose to power even more so, just like the one commodity remaining. So. And Bob Paris, also, I love the actor who plays Bob Paris. He's in a lot of things. He's in Lethal Weapon. Some people in the series that kind of dragged on to that 3rd season once they lost their other lead. But the point being, that guy, he was always good as the captain. So yes, Bob Paris is a fun one for me. I always love Bob Paris. I think I like Bob Paris more than you do, honestly. But
you do. You definitely do.
Anyway, so then we have, of course, lastly but not leastly, we have. Sam Loomis.
I mean, what a dick. Just what a dick.
Pretty
I feel
much.
like the only thing we have to say about him.
I mean, the guy just doesn't like movies. I mean,
that's a case in point. We could just close the book on it with that.
I mean, it sounds like we're just making up stuff there, but no, seriously. He literally said in a line, "Dog, I don't like movies." I don't know. I mean, look, just to add maybe a smidge more is that, of course, Sam Loomis is very indicative of Sam Bates. Of course, just kind of basically what we do with Sam Loomis is we have a little bit of a connect with Sam Bates, Norman's father, and like kind of the abuse that Norman suffered at the hands there, which definitely didn't bode well for Sam Loomis. And also, again, we kind of took the role from the Psycho movie, and we kind of looked at it as again, I think it was always intended to be in Psycho. We kind of made it more present here, where again the idea is like, if Norman's our hero of the story after we get rid of Marion Crane, so to speak, then again we're kind of reversing the kind of your dashing Gaston-esque guy, and we're showing him as the true monster, as the true kind of the villain to our villain, so to speak. Right.
All right. So, Dragon, why don't you go first?
All right, so my front runner here, my first pick is Sam Loomis. because he sucks, and I mean in a way that he's supposed to suck. And I relished him getting killed more than any villain, any character in the entire series. If I'm being honest, that's the thing. So I was so happy when Sam died so brutally. So that's the thing. So that kind of makes it a good villain. Like he's the kind of guy like, man, I hate this guy, and it's so clever that I hate this guy because again he's supposed to be, again we're flipping the roles of Psycho. It's really clever there, and again all the reasons just kind of produce it. So Sam is my first pick, and then that goes to Bob Paris because I just love Bob Paris. Because again, Bob Paris, again, he's the guy who basically did pleasantries better than Nick Ford, and it's just like the bane of Romero's existence because they're friends. But like Romero's like, oh, God, this guy's all about the pleasantries. It's all about just no, it's great. So Bob Paris is a lot of fun, but Sam Lewis, the guy I love seeing him be killed most of all. So,
yeah, Dragon, go ahead and pull up that second thumbnail with Norma.
Okay.
And the normie goes to, Sam Loomis. Come on, who else could it have been, Dragon?
Oh, yeah. Look, if we took a little bit of the emotion out of the equation, probably go to, for me, it'd probably go to Bob Paris. But let's be honest, though.
Honestly, for me, my second choice was going to be Nick Ford, just because, even outside of the running gag of the pleasantries thing, I think Nick Ford did kind of, genuinely set a precedence of pleasantries being sort of this big theme running through the show. Oddly enough, that scene that we kind of goofed about kind of weirdly became oddly important by the end of the show. But let's be honest here. Sam Loomis is easily the most loathable villain of the series. He easily had the most satisfying death. He is definitely linked to some of the big creative subversions of Psycho that we saw the show carry out. I think this is a pretty cut and dry case here.
And he's the most important death in the. Sorry, I just kind of noticed something. Literally, all of our bad guys are dead. Sorry, I just kind of realized. Oh yeah, they are all dead. Anyway, but my point is that Sam Lewis, he's not only just a very memorable death, he's the most important death, and also the Norman's first kill. Norman's first murder. Again, not Mother, not blackout mode. Norman fully cognitive. He kills Sam Loomis, and that's a big moment for him. That transitions kind of that begins kind of like the that's when things are really on after the death of Sam Loomis there. So again, Loomis, he deserved to die. He deserved to die. I wish they could have revised and then killed him again. Honestly, that's just. But it's anyway. Okay.
All right.
So moving on.
All right, Dragon, why don't you just stick on Norma for this one?
Oh, sure.
All right, special category here, folks. I'm very much looking forward to this. And honestly, Dragon, out of all of these categories, this one might be the most competitive for me. We're talking the Golden Formiga, a.k.a. the most adorable Norma moment. All right, wow. First one, Dragon. First up, of course, we already mentioned this with the whole move over, you silly woman. This is what precedes that. Because I'm so sad.
Only for tonight. Because I'm so sad.
All right. Then also, when Romero gets Norma's car back after it gets impounded, she's just so delighted. And she's like, Alex, you got my car back. Alex.
Oh, gosh. Here's the thing. You take this from any point of view, it's just going to work on all three levels. You just have the Alex, and of course you have just the overgear. You got my car back, and then of course you have the second Alex, which is Alex. Okay, it's just being so cutesy. It's basically, oh, I'm so surprised you did this nice thing for me, and oh, you did this nice thing for me. That's pretty much it.
All right, then finally we have adorable in the more maniacal sense, which is when she tears apart the Lee Berman Memorial Overpass sign. You stupid piece of shit! You sign.
Stupid sign is
Dragon. My favorite detail of that whole scene is how she just calls the sign a sign. But she says it with the ferocity, she's calling it the worst name in the book. She's like, "You sign."
Oh man, God, on a good day we get Vera Farmiga. That's all I have to say on that one.
All right, and then you want to explain the next one?
Yes. So next one is this is this kind of feeds into one of our running gags. I gotta be honest. It's not on the block for the nominee, but it's basically what we have here is it's between Mother and Norman. So again, this is during Inseparable, one of my favorites. At the start of the episode, they're in the car and they're kind of like negotiating, like, "Oh man, something bad's like we're in it now. The cops are gonna find the car and everything. We gotta make sure we hide everything, all that sort of stuff." And basically, it's like Norman is spiraling and the mother like slaps him. Of course, again, the perceived imaginary version of himself is slapping him, and he slaps her back. And when he slaps her back, we have Vera Farmiga, who we've joked many a time, when she gets super over eager and everything, has a bit of almost like a Miss Piggy like timbre to her voice, like where basically she gets hit. Just Norman's. And again, we love Vera Farmiga so much. We love Norma Bates so much. It's the fact that even when she gets hit, it's like it's adorable. It's like just the shock of it. Like she's reacting to the shock. Oh, I'm gonna pretend that didn't happen. Of course, the irony being, well, it didn't happen. So it's just many levels of adorable, yet a little bit of violence, but yeah, it's adorable. That's Vera Farmiga for you.
All right. Then the last one.
You taste the last one.
Okay, the last one is, of course, the famous, like, basically one of the moments that gets Norma Bates kind of, like, recognized in town. Like, you're the woman who called Lee Berman a dick. Specifically when she calls out Lee Berman in the overpass hearing, when he just kind of, just overlooks her concerns very nonchalantly, like, no, we have no time for this. And then she's like, you know what? You are a dick. Excuse me? He doesn't actually do the cartoon.
Excuse me?
That's right, you heard me. I called you a dick because that's what you are.
Yep, Norma standing up for herself there. I mean, believe me, folks, there was like almost an odd infinitum of
oh my god, there really is.
So, I mean, like there's like when she's dreaming of Paris. I mean, there's a lot, folks. I don't know.
All right, do you want me to go first on this one, Dragon?
Yes.
Oh god. Okay, I have to go. My first choice I have to do because I'm so sad.
I gotta be honest. Again, I picked. I'm sorry. You keep going.
And then my second choice, honestly, it's between Alex and Stupid Sign, but I went with Stupid Sign just to get like more of a range, because I feel like Alex is kind of like the same sort of like adorable, just like, like quick expression of hers, like, Alex, because I'm so sad. Whereas Stupid Sign is like in another league, you know what I mean? Stupid Sign is like, I feel like Stupid Sign is the crescendo of angry Norma adorableness. So that's why I went with that as my second choice. But honestly, Dragon, because I'm so sad, is pretty far up there as my first choice.
Yeah, my first choice is also Because I'm So Sad. Because it's a classic.
So sad.
It's an institution. It's the Denny's of the choice here, folks. But my second pick, which is equally as strong though, is Alex. You got my car back, Alex.
Dude, that really is a good one. It really is. But I just think Because I'm So Sad is the iconic one.
Yeah, but again, folks, it's really close, though, okay? They're both really good moments.
And again, not to discount Stupid Sign at all, because Stupid Sign is also, just Norma Bates completely unhinged.
Honestly, just Vera Farmiga reading the phone book, it could work. I don't know what to tell you.
All right, but this one, I would say pretty unequivocally, the Normie goes to...
Because I'm so sad.
I
tell you, in a perfect world, Siri would be the voice of Norma Bates.
Oh god,
that would make me upgrade to a smartphone if we had Siri that sounded like Norma Bates. That would do it. Okay. Anyway, all right. So moving on to the next category.
Okay, best nice girl,
or the nicest girl.
The nicest girl. All right, we have Emma Ducote, the
original nice girl.
Yes. We have Bradley Martin, the original kind of like Marion Crane doppelganger, like the start of the nice girl trend of like the nice girls being intercepted by Norman and then just bad things happening to them.
Yep.
We had Annika Johnson, and let's be honest, Dragon, Annika Johnson is probably the least relevant one on the list.
But I liked her though. Annika was, she was, she had the great response to Nice Girl. Remember, says, "I think you're a nice girl. I think I am too." Or she said something along those lines, or like, "I am."
All right, then this. By the way, this category is going to go by really quick. We have shoe-in Madeline Loomis. I mean, Madeline Loomis is just like she almost came close to eclipsing our love of Formiga in just a few short episodes.
To keep it simple, Madeline Loomis is second coming Formiga. It's pretty much Madeline Loomis. That's Isabel. That's Isabel McNally. Just be the second coming of Formiga. In this case, literally a second coming Norma Bates. That's pretty much what her character is. I mean, yeah.
And then we have Marion Crane, and Marion Crane is just kind of like thrown in there just because she is the nice girl of the Psycho universe.
And again, like all the nice girls are technically inspired by Marion Crane, so
right.
He's on there,
right.
Making like the whole.
I feel like this is going to be the biggest shoe-in out of all the categories, right?
Yeah, and look, I just want to say this on behalf of Marion Crane. I mean, look, again, like moments like some of the build up to Marion Crane, but again, I feel like I'm always being harsh on Marion, but again, it boils down to how she botched that sandwich line. That's an iconic line. She did. Some people say eat like a bird.
I honestly feel bad for Emma though, but honestly, the reason why I'm not voting Emma here is because I feel like Emma transcends the nice girl trope. I feel like calling Emma a nice girl would be kind of an insult to her, because of course a nice girl in the terminology of the show is like this big running gag, is that every time Norman deemed a girl a nice girl, she'd be a goner, and they were typically always these attractive blonde women. So therefore Annika, Bradley, and Madeline really were the prototypical nice girls. Like those three in a row were kind of like the classic like assembly line of nice girls. And so Emma Ducote, definitely the most well-developed character. Obviously, she was in all 5 seasons, so she had a beginning to end story arc and everything. But I would say, just in terms of like the parameters of like what a nice girl is on the show, which is just this kind of like just this really pleasing presence to Norman that reminds him of his mother in a sexualized way. That's got to be Madeline.
I agree with you, because basically my second pick, of course, there was going to be no need for it, but just to entertain it, Emma was the second pick. That's the thing, is Emma. The thing about Emma too is that
honestly, I got to be honest with you. I'm kind of worried that Emma's going to get a little snubbed in this award show.
Yeah, I'm afraid of that too. I mean, look, here's of course, the great things to kind of reference with Emma too is, of course, you're absolutely right. Of course, I think there's a fun kind of paralleling real life to kind of the fiction here. Of course, the Hitchcock blondes that's kind of Norman's kryptonite, kind of blondes like Norma. So that's kind of definitely got something there. I'm not saying every girl was a blonde, but I'm saying all the ones that are definitely indicative of Norma were kind of Hitchcock blondes, if you will. Anyway, so beyond that, though, with Emma, though, I've always loved from the very beginning. Of course, it had like a grand arc in the grand scheme of things here. I love that ever since the beginning of Emma's introduction. Norma, again, as you mentioned, Tiki, Norman deems a nice girl a Hitchcock blonde, essentially, where Norma dictates a nice girl, a dying girl who won't pose a threat to me or Norman in the immediate future. So that's what she deems as the acceptable bait for her son. That's oh god, it's. Oh man, it's so twisted, and she ended up marrying her other son, and of course having a baby with him. So it all worked out.
All right, we're plowing through these, Dragon, and you know what? I got to admit, I'm pretty proud of us about how diplomatic we've been on all of these so far, for the most part. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. This is a fun one. This is best podcast running gag.
See, folks, basically what we're doing here is Nice Girl is kind of the transitioning point from, okay, so we had a Nice Girl jar, and now we're getting to Now we're getting to just kind of more and more in depth, kind of ridiculous vanity podcast stuff here. That's where that's where the trajectory is going here.
All right, so oh god, some of these might require a little bit of context. We'll do our very best. Of course, these are all like literally all of these were stuff that we would reference for seasons, like multiple seasons,
and
of
outside of the
callbacks,
and outside of the show too.
and some of them are still going on.
That is true. That is true. And of course, if I remember, did we make Howard Hamlin references on Bates Motel? We must have, right?
Oh god, I don't know. I don't know how much crossover there was between Better Call Saul and Bates Motel.
All right.
Anyways, okay. So first one, very simply, is Who's B?
Who's B? And of course, remember they had the famous 2 deliveries of Who's B because they re-edited. They used 2 different takes. Because you had
I love this running gag because it's like the most insignificant moment in the history of the show that we just took and ran with.
It's just again like it was resolved at the beginning of season 2 where you find out okay B is Blair Watson, but again it's like it was like kind of the quote unquote cliffhanger at the end of the season where Bradley Martin gets her father's letters and like he was having an affair with a woman named B instead of her mother, where it said like who's B, and of course we had the more dramatic who's B. Just anytime you like a name with a B in it, it's like, and of course, recently we had Keegan Connor Tracy, the actress who plays Blair Watson. She was in The Descendants when we were talking about. Of course, she plays Belle, which is the name starts with a B. So who's B? It's still coming back, folks. It's still coming back.
All right, so next one, pleasantries, Dylan. Pleasantries. And then also the diner running gag. You want to explain the diner running
gag?
Gag?
So to keep it simple, okay, so the idea is that in, I believe it was season 2, episode 8, where basically Nick Ford, again, this is kind of seeded through the thing, but again, it's really explicitly said at episode 8, where Nick Ford is a man of pleasantries, a man about the niceties of business. You sit down, you chat, you have like some, you offer your guest a drink, you do that sort of stuff, before you get down to the brass tacks of it all, the niceties. And of course, Dylan, things are really wrought with tension. Dylan's just come in there, he's very all about business because he's convinced like people want to kill him, and like Nick Ford's going to turn on him and try to kill him. That's why he orchestrated like in a public venue and everything. And he cuts right to the chase in this pizza parlor, I believe. Cuts the chase right in this pizza parlor, and so Nick Ford, he's waiting there, and again, Nick Ford's the one who essentially called this meeting. Dylan picked the place, but again, Nick Ford, like he isn't. Dylan's going there. He's all business, and he says, Dylan, much like in life, he basically expounds pleasantries. Yet Nick Ford in the scene, and it's basically the running gag was that Nick Ford, he's all about pleasantries, and we've seen this with Norma. He's all about pleasantries and vouching about Dylan. Life is. I'm botching it here, but essentially it's along the lines of much like in life, pleasantries are key, essentially. Basically lecturing Dylan and educating him on pleasantries are important, but I see you're a little distracted by that right now, so we'll just get down to brass tacks. And the fact of the matter is that Nick Ford again didn't offer him didn't order any pizza, didn't order any food, didn't even offer him a glass of water after a long trip. Didn't order him a drink or anything. Really offer it. It didn't make the offer. So it basically became a rant from that place forward. Just anytime we had pleasantries, especially in the following season, which is all pleasantries that Bob Paris kept bringing up Nick Ford, and basically the gag developed in that. Wherever you'd be, and this bled in other shows like Better Call Saul and Daredevil and such, where we basically would have these characters. It's almost like a super cafe. If any his heat.
Yeah, that's totally what it reminds me of. Yeah.
And basically, the running gag was like other diner or like kind of establishment set things, like James Franco's pie. Basically, every you talk about Harry's pie, the idea was like a pie would be offered, and then he'd look over, and we have these ridiculously elaborate like gags. Like imagine this, if you will. You have Franco enjoying a pie, and Nick Ford, he's almost like a Jedi in the corner, like a Force ghost gives him the nod. Like, while he's reading the paper, says, "Yes, you're doing good. Pleasantries." And basically, it grew from that. And again,
Dragon, let me just say, like, we are the people. I can say definitively that out of all of the fandom of Bates Motel, we are the people that have talked the most about fucking Nick Ford.
Pretty much.
All right.
Right.
Okay, next one. Next one is the Emmy runner, which is kind of similar. We basically just have these scenarios, of course, the running gag, the unfortunate running gag. Correct me if I'm wrong, but no one involved in this show ever got nominated for an Emmy, right?
Well, I know they never won. I want to say Vera Farmiga was nominated once. I believe they had one
Okay.
Emmy nomination for the first season in the entire history of the
Gotcha,
show. The point being, if there were any Emmy nominations, they were only located in the first season. It might have been maybe for her and for show, but that's about it. Highmore, never nominated once, and that's a crime. Darn it. That is a sin!
Oh God. Okay, so basically the whole joke was that we had this Emmy shrine set up that Jonathan Banks guarded.
Yeah, basically, because here's the thing, would bleed over into other stuff. Like there'd be a little bit of the Netflix shows, especially Daredevil, where we talk about Emmy scenes, and of course, a little bit of Better Call Saul. There's been, but it all emanated from Bates Motel because of all the Emmy stuff. Where it's like, oh man, that's an Emmy-worthy scene. Where again, the idea is like, I'm sorry, you talking about the Jonathan Banks?
Well, yeah, the idea is that Jonathan Banks would just be involved in just these ridiculous scenarios of, like protecting the Emmy or, Jonathan Banks like compromising, like, all right, I'll let you touch the Emmy.
Yeah, and we'd also have like other things like, you can't you just borrow Anna Gunn's Emmy. I mean, By the way, I still feel remorseful a little bit about all the Anna Gunn kind of shade I've thrown over the years, by the way, because Vince Gilligan really defends her, and I respect the crap out of Vince Gilligan. It's like, yeah, but still, like, I love Vince Gilligan like no tomorrow, but by the same token, though, I don't care what Vince Gilligan says. There's no defending, like the quiet, the silent treatment that she gives him in season 2. There is no excuse in that. It's like just acting like a petulant child. There's no excuse in that. So, anyway. Point being, so this is the Emmy gag. We kind of emanate from the points I get throughout each season, especially season 4 and 5, which are the most Emmy-deserving seasons, by the way. Highmore specifically, not one Emmy. And I looked at this. There were campaigns by the fans, like the A&E. They were campaigning for the Emmy. Never got one. It's a crime. Hey.
Okay. And then, of course, just every time that we would have a dramatic scene take place and we would need a reaction, we just go to the stand-in soundbite by Max Terriot. What was that?
Because, of course, from the Caleb episode, where Norma just kind of throws Caleb out before we know the full story, at least before Dylan knows the full story.
Get out! Get out!
Get out! And Dylan just like all of this happening. It's a really great, wonderful kind of whirlwind sequence. And Dylan just gets up and it's like a moment of pause. His voice says, "What was that?" just it's wonderful.
All right, and then of course we have the running gag of Carlton Cuse basically.
Okay, this is one of your favorites.
Yeah, he's basically talking like, "Hey, Carrie, previously on Bates Motel." And the idea is that Carlton Cuse is so dialed into doing the previously on Bates Motel voiceover that it's just kind of like, it's a ridiculous running gag, and I feel like it's a little bit insulting to Carlton Cuse a little bit, but still, it's fun. It's just like, the idea is that he has this like OCD tick, like, hey, Freddie, previously on Bates Motel, I have a great idea for this moment previously on Bates Motel. Now you're gonna have to dress up like Norma, but previously on Bates Motel, it's anyways. You get
the idea is that anytime we would talk about the showrunners or like kind of praise the writing, you'd have a bit where Tiki would interject. Yeah, I imagine it went something little like this, where you have Carlton Cuse like talking to Carrie and the other showrunners. Says, Carrie, previously on Bates Motel. Essentially, and of course, Carlton Cuse eventually he actually showed up in the show in season 5 in a cameo as the cop from Psycho. So
yes, that
all
was
relative. All relative. So that was. I think Carlton Cuse is the one that kind of developed more frequently as it went on.
And of course, the funny thing is that Carlton Cuse, that running gag actually for me dates back to the Lost Days, the ye olde Lost Days, where Carlton Cuse used to do the previously on Lost. And then on the podcast, it was a big running joke on the Lost podcast that he'd do with Damon Lindelof, where he's like, no, Damon, the funny thing is everyone thinks I do that voice, but I really don't. Like he'd always deny it, but it's like nowadays looking back on it, like listening to the previously on Bates Motel, listening to previously on Lost, like both of them have to be Carlton Cuse.
Well, I know for a fact the other one's Carlton. I know Bates Motel's Carlton Cuse.
Uh-huh.
For a fact.
But I'm like 99% sure that the Lost one was Carlton Cuse, and him denying it was just a big podcast ruse.
I'm sure if I heard it once, I'd be able to kind of confirm that.
Previously on Lost.
Anyway,
it's got the same sort of like, you know how when I do previously on Bates Motel, I kind of like lower my tenants on, on Bates Motel. I'm like, previously on Bates Motel. It's got that same sort of tenants there. It's like previously on Lost. Anyway.
Right.
Okay. Oh boy. This is wow.
This is a really tough one here. And again, this is just purely for like the two guys who came up with all these things here. So this isn't even on the series. This is just on our ridiculousness right now. I just want to put it in perspective. We're just critiquing ourselves. We're picking between ourselves here around running things.
Man. Okay. Honestly, as a first choice, I'm gonna have to go with Pleasantries, just because I feel like that one we did so much with, and also I like the way that Pleasantries kind of dovetailed into the themes of the actual show in kind of an economic way to explain stuff on the actual podcast.
Mm-hmm.
My second choice. Oh, God. I mean, Dragon, as much as I'm partial to the Carlton Cuse thing, I think Who's B is iconic.
So Who's B is, I think, the one that sounds the funniest because you always have to deliver Who's B? But here's the thing. So for me, I mean, the first one, my first choice is Pleasantries because one, I kind of. Okay, in part I came up with it, but more so I agree that the legacy and the fact it's still around. We used to say it basically developed a shorthand of Pleasantries. It's just still stuck around. And again, the diner gag comes back now and again, but I think now the diner gag has kind of evolved into the something we never had on Bates Motel, but we had on other shows. But again, kind of stemmed from a little bit of Bates Motel where we have. I'm also having a bit of a regret here because bear in mind this had to come from Better Call Saul. That's why I'm of two minds about including it or not. But we ended up not including it. But the point is the diner idea, like crossing over our characters, our favorite characters, kind of stemmed from a little bit.
Yeah.
From a Better Call Saul with the whole roll around the dirt with me, which that's the thing.
God.
So we have that whole gag where it's the whole come on chick, roll around the dirt with me, and basically we have like this cutesy like Peanuts version of Norma Bates just like being led in by Romero. It says back in the house, Norma. And of course, like the point is, like, again, that would be like Jimmy McGill and Norma Bates, just having like all sort of. The point being, and that kind of points, all of that diner stuff kind of evolved into kind of the sisterhood of Elektra, I like to call it, I guess. That whole thing, the lineage of Elektra.
Wow, we're going. This is some deep cut podcast territory here.
Well, you see, what I'm pointing to all of that is dependent
what you're saying to me right now makes total sense. I'm just saying. I can't imagine anyone listening to this unless they're like Donovan Martin level super fans of us, where they're like, yep, that makes sense. I remember that. I remember the trajectory of that.
Still, I mean, the point still stands that I get, like, regardless, like, we bring it up so much, we bring up Pleasantries so much. I mean, I imagine someone would question why at some point. Like, what's this whole thing, Elektra splashing in the blood? What's all about Pleasantries? What is all this? Who's Vera Farmiga? Again, one, you should never ask that question because it's a sin that you don't know who Vera Farmiga is. But no, regardless. But it's we bring it up so often. The point is that Pleasantries is my front runner. My second runner would be the Carlton Cuse thing, just because it came up so often. It's something that it's more the ridiculousness of the Carlton Cuse thing. Because I would have gone Who's B as well, but I mean the other things that Who's B would have been my third choice. Was kind of combating for the second spot because Carlton Cuse is. It's just the ridiculousness of all the things you have as like a nervous tick. It's just Carlton is just going about his day like he's going to Starbucks. Hey, Kira, I'm going to Starbucks, and he goes to Starbucks. Says, yes, I'll have the I'll have the grande prise on Bates Motel macchiato. You probably know nothing about coffee, by the way. But
No,
anyway,
it's fine. It's fine.
anyway. Okay, so anyways, I think we're pretty unanimous, aren't we? So we can just say.
As much as I'd like to give it to Q's, I think Pleasantries truly deserves it. It's the I feel like that's the running gag that evolved the most over the years.
Yep, they put in the legworks. And the normie goes to Pleasantries, Dylan.
Pleasantries. All right.
All right. So that brings us.
Young Bruce Wayne Dragon. I'm going to go ahead and just give you the floor on all these, if you don't mind.
Okay, so again, folks, indulging me on the idea that Max Terriot could have made an excellent kind of a young Bruce Wayne.
What if Max Terriot just randomly showed up in the last episode of Gotham?
What if that's the thing. What if we saw kind of the transitional phase? And that's the thing too. Again, I made the point, and I still stand by it, that again, if Max Terriot if he dyed his hair black or a darker color, if he did, I gotta say, again, you agree with me at some point. So I wonder if you're still.
I totally agree with you. Yeah, I totally see it.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, there's a little bit of a Mizzou.
I think just the way he looks on Bates Motel is fine. I don't think a blonde-haired Bruce Wayne is entirely like sacrilegious to the comics or anything.
I mean, Spider-Man did it, so it's fine.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, what I'm getting at here, I'm saying that again. What we had with Gotham, that David Mazouz had enough of a resemblance that you could say he grew up to be Max Terriot. And would you buy that? Right. That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. All right, so basically, taking your miracle exception of if you the folks like Tiki and I buy that, Max Terriot, he could be a young Bruce Wayne. I could buy it if we did a younger Batman, or at the very least, kind of that transitional phase of basically the Bruce Wayne leaves for 10 years or so. That's our guy. That's our showrunner for that. Basically, the old Bruce Wayne show that was supposed to star Sean Astin. What if we kick Sean Astin to the curb, or whichever Astin brother they got for it? Kick him to the curb, Iceman. Who knew him? Anyway, so we bring in Max Terriot to be in that show that we never got, that eventually turned into Gotham. Let's go into that alternate reality. Let's go into that Elseworlds, if you will. And that's basically, let's say that somehow connected to the Bates Motel. Here are the nominees. The Normies. So we have Dylan facing down in episode season 2, episode 5. We have Dylan facing down a car with nothing to lose. Where basically Zane's targeted, he saves Zane's life and basically returning fire on the car. And this is after Dylan's learned his lineage with Caleb, and he's really down in the dumps. And this is after he's been getting drunk and been past that, drunk and depressed, and he's just divorcing himself from his family, and he walks out in the street. He's got nothing to lose, and it's awesome. It's a guy with nothing to lose walking out in front of the car, shooting at the driver, and eventually gets hit by the car. It's that's that guy's got the chutzpah of Batman. All right, that brings us to the next nominee. Dylan pleading with, this is from Inseparable, the ending of Inseparable, where he's pleading with Norman to take the pills, almost like a Killing Joke plea, if you will. We don't have to do this. Please, Norman, I'm begging you as your brother, take these pills. They'll help you. I filled the prescription. You're supposed to be taking these pills. We'll get you in Pine. We'll do that for you, please. And Norman, again, he tries to placate his brother there, and of course it descends into the chaos that follows, and kind of a good kind of head-to-head again, almost like a Batman Joker fight, if you will, almost. All right, so that brings us to the next nominee. The next nominee is Dylan mourning Norman. Of course, you can't have a young Bruce Wayne without mourning, especially mourning a parent, especially the mother. If we learned anything if Zack Snyder got anything right. If he did, if he didn't, but he got,
I just said no comment.
Right. Point being, Dylan is mourning over Norma. It's a really great, impactful scene. He was in Norma's bedroom after learning that, oh my God, Norma died. It's my fault because I left and I should have been there. I'm sorry, Norma. It's a really great mourning scene for him. Then we have the next nominee, which is saving the family in the motel, where the idea is that before Dylan kind of faces off against Norman for the last time, before he confronts his brother for the last time, Dylan goes to he sees a family's checked into the motel, And he obviously wants to save him, want to make sure nothing bad happens to him. So he goes there and he basically tells them they should leave, and they like the motel, like, my brother's not well. You guys should get out of here. You weren't supposed to be checked in. He basically saves their lives because again, the idea is like Norman would have fixated on this one. It would have been the continuing kind of serial killer factor. It would have been the modus operandi. It would have just gone on and on, like this mother with two children. Oddly enough, I believe named Norman and Dylan. At the very least, one of them was named Dylan. Remember, they had that thing going on with them.
Yeah, that was kind of odd, but
I know that was odd, but I don't know. The point is, like, we didn't know what was real at that point, but we confirmed some things than others. Point being, Dylan saved the family. Very Batman-like thing to do. I'd buy it. So then we have the last thing, basically kind of the death of the family moment, if you will. We have what I like to call the dinner from hell.
go ahead.
The dinner from hell again. It's almost verbatim. Like it's the Bates Motel equivalent to like Death of the Family, where the Joker gets the Bat family around the table and they have like this horrific dinner of. So I won't say what they're having a dinner of. The point is like it's the big payoff where Joker's trying to throw Batman like a big family dinner for the Bat King of Gotham. It's a big it's a nightmare sequence, and that's kind of what we have here, where Dylan walks in as if he were like walking to Arkham Asylum or something.
God.
Just walks in there, and again, what he has there's this beautiful music playing in the background. He walks in there as like, and he's confronting him about Norma. Norma's over there, like Mother's over there, and then of course he sees like the figure of Norma sit from behind, and he goes over there and he sees his dug up mother, and he throws up from just like the how upset he is, and his how shocked, upset, and also just I'm sure Norma's not smelling that great either at this point. Point being, so Dylan just he loses his lunch, but still just the moment there he just walks into this utter horror show, like, oh my god, you dug up our mother and you put her. You want to have basically Norman wants to have dinner with the three of them. It's like, oh god, it's crazy. So again, very Batman-like shenanigans that Dylan Nash is getting himself into here. So Tiki, what are your nominees?
Okay, so for the first pick, I am going to go with Saving the Family. Because, Dragon, I'm kind of with you in your sensibility of, like, there's nothing I like seeing Batman do more than saving people. And then my second pick is going to be, let's see. I think I'm going to go with the pleading with Norman to take the pills, just because that feels like a very kind of, like, Batman Joker type dynamic of, like, really genuinely, like, wanting to help this person, but at the same time knowing that they're sort of beyond the point of help. It's a very dramatic moment. So, but really, Dragon, the way I'm leaning is like I'm pretty much leaning like 75% in the way of Saving the Family. Like that's a big front runner for me right now.
And for me, so by the way, just with again, it's kind of like Killing Joke in that regard, but also just the general compassion Batman would have for a bad guy. It's kind of like you with a Mr. Freeze or a Harvey Dent.
Right.
That's thing. You would like Killing just like a one-time deal with the Joker, but yeah, I got you though. So for me, here's what I'm landing. I'm pretty like my first pick, honestly, and it kind of surprises me. My first pick is the Dinner from Hell.
Really?
Okay. Here's the thing. So my go-to is kind of what my second pick is. My second pick is whenever I think of a young Bruce Wayne moment, I'm always thinking of Dylan facing down the car. That was the first. Like, that was a really big moment for me. I don't know. It just felt like again the temerity of just like kind of facing something down with nothing tethered behind, and again it's just kind of like springing into action. Something felt very young. Like
the first time that we have like four entirely different picks on our hands here.
Yes, but you see what I'm saying? Like personally, but here's the thing, I'll limit it to just the three because look, I love him facing down the car, but that's always my go-to. But comparatively though, the most young Bruce Wayne like moment though. Here's the thing. It's kind of the only question that remains is facing down the car feels like something like like a Bruce Wayne learning the ropes would be in a situation like that. Therefore, it fits a young Bruce Wayne. But by the same token, though, Dinner from Hell, that's a Batman moment with Dylan in it. That is a Batman moment. So by that logic,
that's a good point. That's a good point.
That's literally a Batman moment
versus Bruce Wayne. But by the same token, I feel like Dylan saving the family is something that a Bruce Wayne would do. Bruce Wayne would clear out a building if he knew that something bad was going to go down.
And you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. We have too many good moments, folks, here. But it's that's the thing.
Honestly, I got to tell you, Dragon, I'm willing to go to the randomizer on this for the
I
scene.
think I think we might have to, because again,
I think we might have to, yeah.
this could go on, folks, because it's a good one here. Okay, so all right.
Are you going to put in both your moments?
No, you know what? That's well. What do you think? I mean, again, they're all good contenders. Like, should I add on there just for the heck of it to see what happens when you put?
Do you want to just do all four of them?
What's okay? So your other moment was the pill thing. Would you want to take the pill thing off the table, or do you want to keep it on?
Let's. Well, honestly, I'd prefer if we just did one of my picks versus one of your picks.
All right. Well, if you do it that way, then we'll just have it against the motel, and I guess again, if that's the thing, Dinner from Hell, like that's the most that's the most Batman-esque we're gonna get Max Terriot right there. I mean, so I'm gonna.
Right, but is it the most young Bruce Wayne?
Ah, man, that's okay. Okay.
I feel like it should be the car scene because it's the most iconic young Bruce Wayne thing. Like, I agree, Dragon, that is kind of like where, when I think of young Bruce Wayne and Max Chariot, I do think of that. It is kind of like very much an iconic, like kind of like central part of that idea that we have. And that was what, like season 2 or 3?
Yeah, that's when it really came into focus on that point.
And I'm saying the moment in the hotel we didn't have as much time to digest on, but by the same point, I feel like it is a very powerful moment in its own right.
All right. Well, by that logic, again, it's
Let's go car versus motel.
All right.
Saving the family. All right. Well, gee, looks like the randomizer likes me tonight, Dragon. I'm sorry.
Man, I sure hope this thing isn't rigged somehow. The second time. I don't know. Okay. Anyway. Okay, point being, so saving the family gets the normie. You can't always, sometimes there are upsets, folks, but it's all good. It's all in the benefit of again. It's all
upset at all for me.
I know, not for you. I'm saying for me, it's a bit of an upset. But
okay, but I mean, for you, it's like look at it. It's like honestly, in terms of like the categories here, like are any of them upsets? Like
that's what I'm saying. Like I'm saying that it's not what I expected, but by the same token, though, it's a win. Collectively, it's a win.
Well, I gotta say, I'm really proud of pulling out the. I really fought for Dylan getting the mother son bonding moment. That's kind of like the thing that I'm most proud of so far in this podcast. Right off the bat was that whole pulling out that dark horse victory.
So again, folks, just so the normie goes to Dylan saving the family in the motel.
Woo!
All right.
That's what Bruce Wayne would do, man. He'd clear the building out. But
again, just to kind of cushion a little bit here, make it a little better. It's like he's saving himself tangentially here by saving again like the family that again in a young Bruce Wayne capacity, be saving the family that he lost. In this case, Dylan saving the family that he wanted, that he kind of remembered in his infancy. So again, it's kind of a little bit of connective tissue there. It's nice. Okay.
This might be one of the most fun. Honestly, I have a feeling that there's going to be one obvious contender, and we're not going to have to debate it too much. But still, it's going to be fun reminiscing on all of these. So, Quirkiest Chick Hogan moment. Dragon, do you want to just quickly explain why we love Chick Hogan, and then I'll run through the nominees?
So, Chick Hogan is an enigma of a man. It's just he's like. Imagine if Bigfoot were a recurring character. That's kind of what that's kind of Chick Hogan. Where Chick Hogan is this character who's he kind of wandered in the show in almost a literal sense. He was kind of wandered into Caleb's story really. and I believe it was. I'm trying to remember here which.
I'm pretty sure it was season 3.
Yeah, it was 3. Yeah, you're right, 3 onward. Because basically, he was introduced in 3 because Caleb and Dylan were working out their father-son issues, and then
Chick Hogan was basically kind of like the guy stoking the flames of that.
Pretty much, Chick was kind of walking in there, and he had the gun business going on there, where again Chick was involved in basically gun trafficking and painting. That was the shtick. He did art on metal or big. Of course, we learned it was a little bit more metal art. But the point is, he was an artist on the side, and the gun.
To be a renowned author by the end of the series.
The point is, Chick Hogan has an artistic streak too, which you gotta admire. So Chick Hogan is a man of many hobbies and many interests, and just the man again, he's an amalgamation of just a cornucopia of interesting but also confusing concepts, but confusing in a good way. That's Chick Hogan in a nutshell. Or at points like Ryan Hurst, the actors, he just has these great non sequitur lines, just like lines that make you like wonder, like, what the heck? But he's the man is making great choices that make a character memorable. Let's kind of make him quirky, one could say, which brings us to the quirkiest Chick Hogan moments. That's essentially what it is.
All right. And the Normies are boar jerky.
So the moment behind this is that he's trying to cheer Caleb up, and he tells the man says it with such conviction, says, he's like, Caleb, look at me. After he offered him some boar jerky, says, look at me. Caleb, the world is crap, but the only thing that makes any difference in this world is boar jerky.
Hey, Dragon, this was one of the first ones, and I don't want to tip my hand, but this one's pretty iconic.
Before this, he had like green beans, but green beans do not hold a candle to boar jerky, I'm afraid. Basically, remember Chick Hogan in the beginning, he had like the green beans, and they had the whole like the George and Lenny story going on there. He had like
right.
Yeah. Okay, so the boar jerky is a big contender, and then we have.
Why don't you explain this next one?
We have Chick commenting on Norma posing. It's almost like a fourth wall moment with Chick Hogan. Or the idea is like Chick Hogan, and in season 4, we have this wonderful arc where Chick Hogan befriended Norma Bates.
Oh my God, that was one of my favorite parts of season 4.
And again, it was kind of initially part of a revenge scheme against Caleb, but again, a genuine friendship developed. He has admiration for Norma Bates, which definitely plays in the season 5, hence setting it up in 4. So the idea is that they have this diner scene where Caleb has put 2 and 2 together. He's got a writer's brain. He's put 2 and 2 together, realizing that Caleb, who was introduced to him, I believe, as Dylan's father, he basically puts 2 and 2 together. Okay, you introduced Caleb as your brother. Ipso facto, there's some not so PC stuff going on in Norma's past there. So basically, he's having to sit down. They're engaging in pleasantries and in a diner. So they're engaging in pleasantries in a diner, and basically, Caleb, as he's formed this friendship, and he's confronting her with the fact that he knows about Caleb. I think right before that, he's talking about it. He's basically noticing, as he's basically slowly bringing up some uncomfortable stuff, he's noticing that Norma's like, she looks over her shoulders at times, like looking around and basically doing her, shifting around as Norma does in that wonderful Farmiga-esque, with that wonderful Farmiga-esque flair, if you will. And basically, Chick is bringing that up, that I like what you do with the poses. He basically mimics it too. He's like he's shifting his arms around just like she does. Like he's pointing at that noise. He's pointing at the Farmiga way about her. It's like, it's that Norma. Yeah, it's like I like what you do with the poses. That's it.
All right, so then we have the moment, like very much towards the end of season 4, right after Norman digs up Norma's body right around Christmas, where Chick Hogan visits Norman. I believe it's Christmas Eve, right?
Well, again, it's during the ending of season 4, so I mean it's close to. It's either the 23rd or the 24th. So
and he's got the enchilada casserole.
But more importantly than the enchilada casserole, again, the very quirky, interesting part of this is that one, he's bringing enchilada casserole, the enchilada casserole. I mean, go figure. But the big thing is that as he brings this over, and this is Norman after Norman is just now having the. He's in the midst of having the earth-shattering discovery, because right now he thinks she's playing the silent treatment with him. Basically, after the scene with Chick Hogan, it's a very pivotal scene for him. Chick Hogan kind of wakes him up to this, and saying we all grieve in our own ways, and nothing's wrong, essentially. It's basically saying, so Chick does see Norma on the couch.
Mm-hmm.
He does, and he has that comforting thing. He's basically saying, like, it's okay to grieve in a bizarre, one could say, just not right way. One could say, like, in a twisted way, you can grieve. Basically giving him permission to. Chick Hogan kind of incidentally, he kind of facilitates the ending of the season.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so Dragon, why don't you go first on this one?
Well, no, we still.
Oh wait, no, I'm sorry, my bad. Okay, so I want a cookie.
basically Madeline Loomis brings cookies by, and Chick is just kind of there, and he's introduced like, "What are you, his butler?" Like, no, I'm helping him fix stuff, and then she brings
And he's
cookies.
just
Like,
sitting there, and he's just like, "Well, oh Norman, I just thought you'd like some cookies, Norman." And then Hogan's just like, "Well, I want a cookie."
It's like asking like what kind of cookies, and he just says, "I want a cookie," and he leaves the
I want
scene.
a cookie. Basically, with this one, it all comes down to Ryan Hurst's delivery.
Believe me, folks, the cookies it's so hard to pass a cookie because the only other thing was like, "Let's go in the basement." But I mean, come on, it's cookie. There's no beating the cookie.
All right, and then finally, oh my God, this one is another big contender.
Yeah.
I'm writing a book about what?
So the main arc of season 5 is that Chick Hogan, he's befriended Norman, but he's also again with an ulterior motive initially. Saying again, it's kind of mirroring the relationship with Norma. Ulterior motive, but again develops a friendship. It's something he likes about this Bates family, where he's basically writing a book. Presumably, he'll take on the pseudonym of Robert Bloch and be writing the Psycho book. At least that's or a screenplay.
That's where everyone who was into this show thought it was going.
Or maybe like Joe Stefano or something. Perhaps he's like using the writer of the script. Perhaps it's unclear. The point being, Chick, he said, "I think we'll make a nice little movie one day." Point is, Chick's writing a book based on Norman, based on the whole love affair. Whole Norma, digging up the mother, all that stuff. And he's writing this book, and basically he's kind of taken up into writing in Norman's basement. Likes that basement. And Romero he's looking for Norman. He goes to the basement, and lo and behold, he finds Chick Hogan. Oddly enough, and he's asking, "What are you doing?" Of course, Chick Hogan's kind of conflicted because he's kind of profiting off of Norman, who he's now befriended. So he's kind of at a crossroads, which is why he's kind of so emotional and everything. I know it sounds bad, but he's says, "What are you doing here?" "I'm writing a book about what?" And it's more so just Romero's response to "about what?" Just so intensely curious, like "about what? What are you writing a book about?" Romero was going like through heck and back, just trying to get. Man was put in the prison. He had to escape prison. He's had to lie low. He was shot by buckshot. It's a whole Romero's. It's kind of the Romero redemption, one could say, getting from point A to point Norman. All right.
Why don't you go first?
All right. So I think again, there are a lot of good contenders here, folks. I think the main front runner for me is I'm writing a book. But the second choice for me would be board jerky. I mean, board jerky. I don't know. It's just funny. It's hard to beat. But again, the conviction in which the man is so dedicated to his jerky. It basically, I think board jerky fits the qualifications of quirky in that of all the things to fixate on, he's fixated on board jerky being an important thing. And that's what he's using as an olive branch for Caleb. He says, "Caleb, look at me." He's getting real serious about like board jerky. He's like, "Life sucks, but board jerky makes it better. Why don't you understand this?"
Okay. Yeah, I'm basically the exact opposite, Dragon, in terms of like not the exact opposite, but my first pick would be board jerky, and my second pick would be I'm writing a book. But you know what, Dragon, just to speed this along, and I think I'm writing a book is honestly just as good. Here's the thing, I think board jerky is a little bit more iconic, but in terms of like how the question is phrased, I definitely think that I'm writing a book is more quirky. Like I do feel like that's the more quirky moment between, like you said, we've got this like super intense rivalry between Chick and Romero, and it's like coming to a head in this really silly way, and they're both just kind of like at each other's throats and being really intense, but at the same time it's just kind of like this ridiculous scenario. So yeah,
that's a funny thing too. It's not even a rivalry. It's the fact that they just like they knew each other, from season 4. But it's just he just kind of runs into Chick. You're like, "What are you doing here?"
Right.
Basically, it's a quirk that even makes Romero quirky with the whole "about what." So with that, it's kind of ipso facto. Don't you have to give it to writing a book?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's give it to writing a book.
All right, again, nothing against board jerky.
I'm kind of surprised that board jerky didn't win, just because board jerky is like kind of an institution. Yeah. But that's fine. Like I said, I think writing a book, there's definitely really good arguments for it there, where it is clearly the most quirky moment, even more quirky than board jerky.
And the normie goes to, I'm writing a book.
I'm writing a book.
About what?
All right. Okay, best use of a song. All right, Dragon, I know you're really into this one, so why don't you go ahead and lay them out?
All right, so best use of a song. We have, I'm going to try to do this chronologically here. Just give me a minute here. So we have Tonight You Belong to Me, which again complements the scene I mentioned way earlier during the bonding moments, where it's Norman in the blackout state. It's the end of the episode. It's kind of a callback to the earlier playing of like Caleb and Norma playing the song, but it's specifically the original Gene Austen version that plays. I think it's either Gene Autry or Gene Austen. I think it's Gene. I'm paranoid about it now. I think it's Gene Autry, but the point being, it's Gene. Gene sings a song. Anyway, so we have Tonight You Belong to Me playing as again it's the love story that will never happen. That's kind of the story that's going on here, and the fact that these two are drawn to each other in the closest way they can be, which basically foreshadows them becoming the same person. So then we have that was a powerful one. That was in season 3. Then we get to Mr. Sandman. So not the original Mr. Sandman, not just basically Mr. Sandman in the callback capacity work. Mr. Sandman was played in season 2, where Norman were playing Mr. Sandman. It's a song that they would, and this is a tricky one because there were 3 uses of Mr. Sandman. They're all really good, all of them. Yeah, the first one, they're just kind of playing all happy-go-lucky, and then they're just bonding. Is the song they would sing in Norman's youth. Then you get in season 4, you have like the beginning of it where we call back Mr. Sandman in a blackout, where it's playing while Norman is strapped to the gurney. He's remember playing it with her when he's a kid, sing along with it. But we have the death. And the death is the ultimate payoff to Mr. Sandman, where basically we have this really creepy elongated rendition of Mr. Sandman, dun 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 dun. Bring me a dream. Basically, as Norman is shutting off all the vents, so basically all the gas pours into the room. Basically, they die of essentially carbon monoxide poisoning or something of some such. Basically, a gas leak would kill them. And then let's see. So after that, we have we're getting into season 5 with "Call Me Irresponsible." "Call Me Irresponsible" is kind of the penultimate song choice, as it were. It's a wonderful Bobby Darin song, one of my favorites. And it's playing like basically as we see the crime scene of the motel in like episode 9. Really, "Call Me Irresponsible." That's the cold open for the whole thing too, if I'm remembering correctly. Where basically we see Chick Hogan's body is found. They're digging up the suitcase. We're finding all the evidence that it's kind of going that Norman's going to be going up against in the trial. It's like a lot of bad stuff going on here. So it's a really artfully done sequence and just an excellent song choice.
Okay.
And then we have crying, and then we have another one. We have "Crying," which is the murder of Sam Loomis. Basically, we do this famous psycho murder to "Crying Over You," the Roy Orbison song. It's a real powerful, really kind of buildy song. And finally, we have "Dream a Little Dream" by Doris Day, which to me is always an inside joke to the Hitchcock movie, where Alma says to Alfred Hitchcock, says, "Oh yes, Psycho, lovely. Doris Day should do it as a musical." So I'd like to think that's a deep cut reference to that personally, but I doubt it. Point being, "A Dream a Little Dream" is what plays over the final, most emotional montage, basically the aftermath of Norman dying in Dylan's arms, of like the artful shot, like Norman dying in Dylan's arms and Norma in the foreground, and we show the aftermath in the future, and Dylan. Basically, the most beautiful one where Dylan's daughter runs into his arms, like the next generation. Oh, it looks just like Norman. We end on the shot of Norman's headstone where he's buried with Norma. It's like, so all of that. That's "Dream a Little Dreams." Those are the songs. Those are the Normanese.
Okay, Dragon. I'm going to be a little bit polarizing here, but basically, how I feel about this is I am willing to go all in on Mr. Sandman. Like, to me, there's no other choice. I'm totally willing to go to the randomizer on it if it's necessary. I think Mr. Sandman is just, when I think Bates Motel music, I just think of that, and to me, what makes it so great is the fact that that song was used multiple times, and then the final time it was used was just kind of like that earth-shattering, like, oh my god, it's literally like the song that we used to kill off Norma Bates. It's just such an artfully done sequence. It's arguably the best sequence in Bates Motel. Yeah, Dragon, like I said, I'm totally willing to go to the death on this one. Like, I don't even have a second choice.
I'm going to fight you on this one, buddy boy. Okay, so my main choice is Dream a Little Dream.
Okay,
Dream a Little Dream is my front runner, and beyond that, I have Crying. So again, like the famous death, as it were. So I'm going to raise your point about Mr. Sandman. Well, again, Sandman is an excellent choice. Don't get me wrong, but again, we see, we have the death specifically. I'd argue this. One, Dream a Little Dream compliments Mr. Sandman, which is all about, Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream. And this is the dream. And the whole episode is about the dream being realized. And again, it's a very powerful montage where the death of Mr. Sandman, again, it's good and it's building and it's creepy, but again, maybe not again. Mr. Sandman, it's a good one. Again, we have all good choices here. By the same token, there are other points. You have other renditions of Mr. Sandman. All of them are different.
Yeah, but Dragon, to me, the other renditions of Mr. Sandman are what makes this version of Mr. Sandman stand out all the more. Because at this point, Mr. Sandman is almost like an unofficial theme song between Norma and Norman. That's what I love about it. That's kind of like my point, honestly.
But I'm saying I feel Dream a Little Dream summarizes the point of why Mr. Sandman was there in the first place. Where again, it's Dream a Little Dream it's what they've been like. Mr. Sandman is like, yes, they can only realize this in death, and Dream a Little Dream is the payoff of them realize. Again, it's kind of like, if that's them realizing it in death, then Dream a Little Dream is it's the light at the end of the tunnel. It's the heaven, it's the aftermath, it's the future. It perfectly encapsulates the final notes that are hit. It shows like they both got what they wanted. Like it's like that's the song that we hear play. And basically, I don't know how else to put it. I mean, Dream a Little Dream feels like, again, like I don't know if you're familiar, did not see it, but it feels like if we had to translate Farmiga musically, it feels like Dream a Little Dream is that song. It just feels perfect in terms of picking a song.
Okay.
And Crying is also Crying's another good contender, though, because Crying, of course, is like that. How do you? It's asking the question: how do we take one of the most iconic moments in film and not use we're not specifically using the Bernard Herrmann score when we're doing the actual moment? Well, we did a little bit of Bernard Herrmann stuff when we were doing the fake out. But what we do is we plus it by having this song about Norman's metamorphosis with Crying. Is that you're crying. You and the audience are crying over Norman losing his soul in the moment. So Crying's a powerful one by the same token.
All right, well, I tell you what we're going to do, Dragon. Since I don't have a second choice, since I'm willing to go to the death on Mr. Sandman, I feel very strongly about it. Not to dismiss any of yours. I'm really not trying to do that. I just think that Mr. Sandman just has like a definitive quality to it. Like, to me, Mr. Sandman is like almost the unofficial theme song of the whole show, or at the very least, the theme song to Norma and Norman's dynamic. So what we're going to do, Dragon, I want you to go into the randomizer, and I want to put both your choices in there along with Mr. Sandman.
All right. Wait, I thought we were going. If we're going to the mat, that means going to the mat means we got to fight it out. That means we got to argue it. So you're saying you want to go to the randomizer?
Yeah, and I'm saying, okay. I mean, do you want to just pit? Do you want to just do Dream a Little Dream versus Mr. Sandman?
Well, I mean, personally, that's the thing. I really feel in my gut that Dream a Little Dream. Again, Crying is a good contender as well, and I wouldn't be mad if it won or anything. Obviously, because those are all great songs, by the way, of course. But I mean, again, I'm not really hearing an argument against Dream a Little Dream. I'm just hearing like a kind of a talk up for Mr. Sandman, specifically. You're going for like third version of Mr. Sandman.
Okay, so what you're saying is like we're turning this into a debate now, and I'm not like arguing enough to go into the randomizer.
I think that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you, Dragon. Just like to me, Dream a Little Dream just isn't as memorable. I mean, it's good, it's very good, but to me, I just think that Mr. Sandman is just kind of definitive. So, I mean, look, if you really want it to be Dream a Little Dream, let's just make it Dream a Little Dream. I already got two of them on my randomizer. I'm totally fine with giving this to you, but that's fine.
Well, I mean, I don't want to be unsportsmanlike, but by the same token, again, it's more of an award show, so it's not exactly.
Well, yeah, and like I said, I already got two of my randomizer things, so I feel like we're due to split a tie your way.
All right, okay, I'm just okay. We're gonna give it so okay, and the normie goes to Doris Day's "Dream a Little Dream."
All right.
Okay, last one.
Last one, Best Blackout. Oh my god. By the way, Dragon, I just noticed this now, but I love that our color scheme. Oops.
Yes.
Sorry. I love that our color scheme we have is very similar to the Detective Pikachu poster. Kind of like the neon blue and yellow.
Right.
Anyways, sorry. Okay, so Best Blackout. We have Norman sleeping, which is, of course, the famous Dylan witnessing mother making breakfast bit.
Which, by the way, would have been another contender for young Bruce Wayne moments. But again, that would also feed into the whole. It's more of a Batman than a Bruce Wayne moment. But that's fine.
We have killing Bradley Martin, which is, of course, a big iconic Psycho moment,
and very well directed. Again, that's Norman. That's Norman's. It's Mother's first kill. It's like not the accidental thing where he shoved the guy by accident. That doesn't count. I mean, the guy just fell. The guy was clumsy. It was really. Point being, that was the staircase killed him more than Norman killed him. Point being, this is the first time Norman's killed somebody with Bradley Martin, so she was his first as well as his first of many other things. So, point is, Bradley Martin was destined to die.
Okay, we have, of course, the Blackout origin with Sam Bates,
which essentially is here's why it's a blackout twofold. One, it's the origin of the blackouts, but also we have it told via a blackout, where basically Mother takes over during the therapy session with Dr. Edwards, and basically he tells Mother tells him, like, I've kept this. Again, the episode's called Vault. So it's there's secrets that Norman has kept from himself, and again, it's basically a big repressed memory of the origin of the blackouts, where it's when Norma was at her most vulnerable, and Norman was in the room as she was being violated by Sam Bates. Again, eerily, full circle, similar to how she was violated by Keith Summers.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of have that. We can have that scene there. Norman's under the bed, and basically, they're clutching each other's hands during this big traumatic moment that Norman's kind of blocked out and has manifested itself in a blackout. So basically, that's where he became his mother with that hand holding. So that's the blackout origin. So.
Okay, then we have the Caleb chat, which is where Mother confronts Caleb for the first time, and boy, is it intense.
Basically, this is Norman fully realized, wearing the wig and the whole 9 yards. He's head to toe. He's become Mother.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then we have the knockout blackout. What does that one entail, Dragon?
Well, the knockout one is basically it's an interesting one. Where Norma. Basically, Norman is in police custody. He's in a cell, and and Norma basically tells him that she needs to take over. I'm sorry, I need to take over, and she basically takes Norman and basically bashes his head against the toilet, knocking him out. And then she takes over. She's wearing the sweater and everything. It's like, so she takes over. Of course, it's really just Norman hitting himself against the toilet, knocking himself out, but really just bruising himself until he gets up. So the idea, though, again, that's what triggers the blackout. It's a blackout knocking. It's basically a blackout creating itself. That's kind of what you have going on.
Okay, so my first choice here is going to be, you know what? I'm going to go with the Caleb chat just because it's the most fully realized. It's really visceral. It's like we've been leading to that moment for a long time, and I feel like it's really satisfying. It's kind of like, it's very guttural, the way that it's, the way that all the emotion of it just plays out all at once. But as a strong second contender, Dragon, as a strong second contender, I am going to go with the breakfast bit, the Norman sleeping bit, because that
Oh
was
my!
kind of the genesis. That was the genesis of it. That was like really the first time we got to see Norman. You know, he was in the robe. He was talking in the motherly voice. That was really kind of the start of like the blackouts that we get to like really come to associate with the show. It like really wrapped up what the show meant to have a blackout with Norman.
Well, believe it or not, we're very simpatico on this because those are basically reverse the order, but those are my two contenders.
Oh, nice, nice. Okay, so what do you want to do? Do you want to?
I'm a little bit more pliable on it, but by the same token, I think we should just kind of figure it out. So
Okay,
it's basically we're on
honestly,
the.
I am. If your first choice is Norman sleeping, I gotta be honest with you. I switched my first choice and my second choice pretty much like in the moment as we were talking about and describing the Caleb chat. So if you're feeling strongly about Norman sleeping, I am totally willing and down to do Norman sleeping.
Well, let's see, because again, I love these are both very different, but also very because we have the beginning and we have the full realization of it. That's the tricky part. So again, they both are fascinating in their regard. And of course, I'm definitely tempted with the Norman sleeping thing because you have a little bit of young Bruce Wayne built into that as well. But beyond that, though, it's we have the outside perspective of Dylan seeing this scene unfold. And again, it's Highmore. Basically, this is Highmore at Emmy acting at its height here. Where again, even without all the trimmings and everything, it's like it's Highmore just you believe that he is turned into Vera Farmiga, don't you?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And by the same token, you could say the same for the flip side. However, and this is the one knock I have against the Caleb chat. It's great, but then you get into. I'm not saying it's not a problem within the episode, but just for the purposes of what we're doing here. You have the Caleb chat where again Caleb is suffering a head injury where we're kind of blending things together there where we have Norma, we also have the idea, like, we always have that loose thing where again there's a blackout, but then there's like, is Caleb having the blackout thing? Where obviously Caleb is not having the blackout, but he's kind of having like a blurred, he has a head injury right now. So again, it's a miracle exception in a good way. Where again, it's I think you can easily give a pass. So who cares? It's a great scene.
Mhm.
But by the same token, though, that's the only knock I could really have against it. That is fully realized. By the same token, though, it's like, can you believe that he would buy it? Can you believe that he would be fooled that that is not just Norman dragged. That is
Right.
mother.
I hear you. I hear you. That is a good point.
But they're still both very solid though, and again directorially they're both very well done as well. I mean,
Uh,
one's all performance, the other one is really artfully directed. But again, by the same token, Highmore's bringing it in both since he becomes Norma Bates. However,
right.
the
I got to admit, I can't get over the legacy factor of the breakfast one. That's really what's kind of tipping it over the edge for me. I feel like the breakfast one, that, like I said, that kind of changed the show in a way that the Caleb thing was just kind of like was more just kind of like building on things, but the breakfast one was really a game changer.
And the thing with the breakfast as well is that's one that was like really kind of teased up in the marketing without showing what it looked like. And more
Oh,
importantly, that was the thing they were building to that where Norman was kind of drawn towards the clothing, towards the dress, towards these kind of totems of Norma. And it was kind of fully realized when after she left. Again, remember, this is all amidst like she leaves and Norman goes down a downward spiral, and her leaving is his becoming of Norma.
right, right.
Look, I think we're pretty sympathetic, right? You'd be satisfied with Norman
Oh,
sleeping,
I'm
right?
totally satisfied with this.
Right.
Yes.
So Norman's sleeping. Go wake your
Norman.
brother up so he can eat with us.
All right. Okay, so just to run down the nominees and the winners one more time, Dragon, if you'll allow me to do so.
Sure.
Okay. Best mother son bonding moment. The nominees were the boat scene from the pilot episode about the cord, the Dylan Norma scene. You bought me a ticket. Move over, you silly woman. The Tonight You Belong to Me ending, and season 4's I'd never leave you ending. And the Normandy went to the Dylan Norma You Bought Me a Ticket moment. Okay, best episode. It was between Norman, Unfaithful, Marion, Inseparable, and The Cord. And the Normie went to Norman. Okay, best villain. The nominees were Jake Abernathy, Nick Ford, Zane Morgan, Bob Paris, and Sam Loomis. And of course, the Normie went to Sam Loomis.
Bad Sam.
Bermuda, aka the most adorable Norma moment. The nominees were Because I'm So Sad, Alex, you got my car back, Alex, Stupid Sign, uh, the reaction to Norman hitting the car, You're a Dick, and then the winner there, the Normie went to Because I'm So Sad. All right, best nice girl. The nominees were Emma Ducote, Bradley Martin, Annika Johnson, Madeline Loomis, and Marion Crane. And in a runaway victory, the Normie went to Madeline Loomis. Best podcast running gag. We had Who's Bee? We had Pleasantries. We had the Emmy bit. We had What Was That? And we had Carlton Hughes previously on Bates Motel. Carlton Hughes. And the Normie went to Pleasantries. Okay, biggest young Bruce Wayne moment. We had facing down the car with nothing to lose. We had pleading with Norman to take his pills. We had Dylan mourning Norma. We had saving the family in the motel, and we had the dinner from hell. And the Normie went to saving the family in the motel. Okay, quirkiest Chick Hogan moment. The nominees were Boar Jerky, commenting on Norma's pose, the enchilada casserole, I want a cookie, and I'm writing a book. Sorry, I was hoping you'd come back with.
About what?
Okay, there we go. All right, and the Normie goes to I'm writing a book.
About what?
All right. Okay, best use of the song. We had Dream a Little Dream, Tonight You Belong to Me, Crying, Mr. Sandman, and Call Me Irresponsible. And the Normie went to Dream a Little Dream. And finally, with best blackout, we had Norman sleeping, killing Bradley Martin, the blackout origin, the Caleb chat, and the knockout blackout. And the Normie went to Norman sleeping.
Norman sleeping.
All right, so Dragon, I think this went off without a hitch for the most part, my friend. I'm very satisfied with this. There were definitely some moments of intense deliberation, but I feel like overall we both kind of got what we wanted. I feel like this was a very agreeable set of awards for the most part. I feel like technically speaking, it was honestly one of the smoothest podcasts we've recorded in a while, so points for us there. Any final notes on the Normies, Dragon? I feel like this was a concept that was, like unlike the randomized rework debates or something like that, this was kind of an experimental concept that actually worked.
Yeah, well, folks, we are huge Bates Motel nuts. I don't know why. It's three of the three main shows that we've covered are all prequel shows, and that speaks to the quality of Bates Motel. Because again, when you say prequel, a lot of people head for the hills. But again, when it comes to TV prequels, for some reason we keep hitting it just right. Because we've had Gotham, we've had Bates Motel.
Another example of a really damn good TV prequel.
Yeah. That's the thing, we keep lucking out with those, and that's the thing. So basically what we've done here, folks, we've gone over a lot of happy memories of kind of talking about reacting to and just kind of being there along for the long, spinny, windy road that was Bates Motel. It was a fun ride, I remember with best blackout. Again, we picked some of the top tier moments here. Again, best black. I remember going over the 4 tiers of blackout mode when we kept going through. We kept the tally of it, even all that. How many times did he black out? The coin jar, all sorts of ridiculousness along the way. And it's a testament to a show. At the end of the day, it's a show about a boy who loved his mother to create excess, and how else can we celebrate Mother's Day than not talk about Bates Motel, specifically the wondrous Norma Bates, played by the incomparable Vera Farmiga, but again, it's all love towards the show as well. Again, like Vera Farmiga, she's wonderful, but again, she's a cog that makes the grander whole really sail and just kind of like set sail into broader horizons. So it's always a pleasure to talk Bates Motel because we're going to reference it again anyway. Might as well do it appropriately, especially around Mother's Day, right?
Oh yeah. All
right.
And of course, Dragon, we will be talking about Vera Farmiga some more in our coverage of Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
Yes, the only thing that could stop Godzilla, Vera Farmiga.
Dragon, I got to admit, I've been hearing that the ad campaign for that is giving away way too much, so I'm like in full kind of like trailer lockdown for that thing. But I'm excited for it, man. I'm like cautiously optimistic for it. And of course, at this point, I'm almost borderline expecting Farmiga to get killed off in the first 15 minutes. But, we'll see how it goes.
Of course, they did that one of our other favorite actors. They did that in the previous one, so it's entirely possible.
That's what I'm saying. Like, another one of our favorite shows with the lead actor of our favorite show dead in 15 minutes after hyping him up in the ad campaign.
At the very least, dead at the end of Act 1. Let's at least give him that much.
All right. Okay, so thank you for watching this, folks. We hope you had a good time. We know that this podcast was a little bit on the niche side of things, so we hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. And go out and hug your mother. Go out and wish your mother a Mother's Day. Take her somewhere. You know what I'm doing with my mother for Mother's Day, Dragon?
What are you doing?
I'm taking her to go see a performance, so not the movie, but an actual play of To Kill a Mockingbird.
You know what? My mother loves To Kill a Mockingbird as well.
Nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And it's also at the 6th Street Playhouse, which is a theater that I've never been to before. But suffice to say, the next time we do movie memoirs, I will have not one, but 2 plays at the 6th Street Playhouse under my belt. So a little teaser there. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching and happy Mother's Day. Now, in the meantime, Mother, roll over, you silly woman.
Because I'm